Results. Oh, thank you for hitting record. We have a whole slew of updates that we want to go through quickly with you around Pressbooks Results. There's been some great progress there, and also things that are not quite ready yet but are underway. And so we want to share those updates with you and talk about where we're going next as we wind down our pilot and move Pressbooks Results into general availability. And then we're also excited about a preview of something that's coming soon, a contribution from BCcampus that boosts accessibility. So we'll share that. And then we'll touch on upcoming events and hopefully have a few minutes for a roundtable at the end. So let me hand things off. So to start out our pilot update, Steele, do you want me to hand things off to you, or do you want me just to share the slides for you?
I think go ahead and just share the slides. It's okay. That'd be too complicated to switch. So thank you. I just want to give an update on the Pressbooks Results pilot. If you aren't familiar with Pressbooks Results, it's essentially an assignment helper. So a lot of instructors will take their Pressbooks books, they're open and licensed, and they add interactive quizzes or other activities using a free integration called H5P in Pressbooks. When you build them, there's a kind of example on the right-hand side. So you see, like, I've read some text about chemistry. There's a little call-out box, and inside that box, there is a check your understanding type question for formative assessment. It's great for student learning. It's great for formative assessment. But if you don't integrate it with your LMS, the student sees the answers, and how well they did, but the instructor has no idea what the student has done, hasn't done, how well they've done, where they might need to practice, and so forth. So Pressbooks Results basically establishes a connection via a standard called LTI between the graded activities in the book and your learning management system. So that when a student completes these activities, it automatically sends a grade to the gradebook that the student can see and the instructor can see. And then we've been building a bunch of other components that let you drill down deeper and see scores on individual activities and more detail about how they did, not just at the assignment level, but at a more granular level. So it really helps instructors understand who's done the reading, who's doing well, who's struggling. And it also helps learners know, okay, this is where I might need to focus. I can practice this as much as I want before I come to class. It works well for flipped and blended classrooms and lots of other contexts. So the news is the pilot's wrapping up. It's gone really well. We're coming out of pilot and into general availability. If you go back just the slide before, Julie, there's one thing I wanted to mention. There is a short video that probably explains it a little bit better than what I just said. It's linked, it's on our YouTube channel, and you can have the slides later. But if you'd like to get a primer video, it's available and you can share it or watch it yourself. So sorry, now I'm ready for the next slide. Over the last term, we had 25 institutions, around 35 instructors, roughly 3,000 students using Pressbooks Results, and they were using it across a range of LMSs. We initially had some people that were going to use it in Moodle, but they ended up not participating in the pilot, but it works with all of the major LMSs. The pilot consisted of onboarding and training, making sure that instructors felt comfortable using this with students. We had monthly check-ins, and we did a bunch of research and feedback gathering to understand what features would be most valuable, how to improve the product. And I think Michelle will talk about that a bit later, but I just wanted to, I think there's one more slide maybe, is that right? We did a student survey, and should I talk about this or?
You or Michelle.
I'll take this one briefly then. So we asked instructors if they were willing to share a brief student survey that we designed with students. And we had about 130 responses to that survey. And by and large, students felt that they were satisfied with the interactions. They were effective in helping them learn. They found it relatively easy, or actually surprisingly easy, to access and complete the activities. And in terms of having the grade passed back happen reliably, it was generally reliable, with a couple of issues that we were able to identify and build fixes and solutions for through the term. So we're really confident that it will be robust and ready for much broader, larger use in the upcoming term, and excited about what we've learned from instructors and students. If you want to see details of that survey, it's anonymized, but it's there at that link on that slide as well.
One thing that I will note, I think this came out in some of the comments, is the low score here is the satisfaction with graded activities. And what's notable is we had some student critiquing of learning design. We had, that wasn't all reflective of Pressbooks results. Some of it was, talking some of the student feedback on were the descriptions as clear as they could be,
I
things
didn't
like.
like your quizzes, etc.
Right. Yeah. So I just want to have that caveat that, that sort of what was going on with that. There was a little bit more nuance there. So any questions about this before we move on to the next topic? All right. And I don't, in this view, I don't have the chat view open. So if somebody keeps an eye on chat, that would be handy. Okay. Let's see. I think now we'll hand things over to Michelle. Do you want to, I know you're going to be doing some sharing. Do you want to drive the slides here?
We can drive it on this one. I don't think I have anything to show until maybe the next slide.
Okay,
So,
perfect. All right. Go ahead.
so we have made some improvements to grading reliability. We now have a notification that students get to turn on third-party cookies, which will then help submit the grades back to the gradebook. We've removed the last attempt grading scheme from the sort of book editor, or when you add your H5P activities, we just recognize that the other options are used more often and are much more accurate. Or I wouldn't say more accurate, but last attempt is no longer needed. And so we removed that from that. And we have also added some troubleshooting guides published. I believe, does Steele or someone want to talk about those guides at all, or is that
Yeah, that'll come up later. I think Thomas is
okay?
yeah.
Great. And yeah, we are looking at finding other methods in order to get around the third-party cookie notification, just so that we can make it a bit more streamlined where possible. I'll go to the next slide. Yes, and so we've also made some improvements to the chapter results viewer. And so I can show some things on my screen just to show that in context. So this is the view from one of our demo courses that we used during the pilot. And so some of the things that we have added to the activity results viewer is we now have a total column. So you can see what all of the H5P activities add up to, instead of doing the math yourself and finding out where it is out of. So now that is all clearly presented. We have also added the you can see what grading scheme has been used on each activity that you go through. This is viewable both to instructors and to students so that they can understand how those grades have been made. We have also organized the information of students using alphabeticalization with the last name coming first. So that is a new way that we have presented that information. And I believe that is it for that, unless we can see that slide again.
Michelle, are you going to go on and the data
I was
visibility
going to ask if you could bring the slides back up again,
Oh,
Julie.
okay. Yes, sorry. I misunderstood. So yep, let me go back to Zoom. All right. Okay, there we go.
Okay, and so then we have the data visibility. So we are providing new information we've been working on, showing the network institutional level about the data used for Pressbooks results. If you're running a shared network, you would see the list of the institutions, or if you run one, you would see that institution, but it basically gives insight to the amount of users, courses, and books that results is being used in. And I will also share this one. So let me see if it will let me just open it.
Before you do, Michelle, I don't know whether you intended, but The previous slide had those two items at the bottom that were like the work in progress for the drill down view. Was there anything that you wanted to show for that? I don't remember.
Sorry, I just got caught off guard. My
Yeah,
screen
no,
was
it's
doing
okay.
something different. Could you repeat what you said, Steele?
Sorry, the previous slide had the,
Yes.
not just the work that was done, but the
The work
work
that is going to be done.
for the drill down view and for the learning data insights. I'm not sure whether you had something prepared to share on that, but that was
Yes, let me show that as well. So some of the other planned improvements that we have on the activity viewer that we're looking at is we are going to be putting a sort of grading issues form attached to the activity viewer. So this would basically connect our support with instructors that are using, and if they find any sort of grading issues that might be cropping up, they can click the button and a form will populate, and we can describe the issue so that we can better diagnose those issues when they're happening. So that's one feature improvement that we're looking at adding. And then we also have been working on collecting, into providing visibility into activity responses. So what we're calling are the H5P detail views. So over the last few weeks, we have been really focused on capturing and storing data related to both the open-ended and close-ended activity types, specifically around fill in the blanks, essay type, drag and drop, drag the words, mark the words, multiple choice, true, false, and quiz question sets. And so we have shown sort of like little wireframes of what that could look like, but now we're getting much closer to that. And so our idea of what this would look like, this is a fill in the blanks activity type. And so when it populates, you have the ability to show your H5P activity to see the context of what those answers were given to, as well as you will be able to look at the different activity attempt types so that you can choose which ones you want to view. And then, of course, the user's correct answers, their incorrect answers, and what the instructor assigned as a correct answer will show up. So you're able to better diagnose issues and see how students are performing on those questions. And then for the sort of long answer type, so essay type, it will be a similar thing where you will be able to see what the question is. And then, of course, the same thing, you'll be able to take a look at if they have multiple attempts, what those attempts look like, and then read the full text that has been submitted. Any questions about this?
And I will say that's one of the probably the number one request of the pilot instructors was what you're seeing here. So the ability to have more visibility, not just into the final score, but what is the actual attempt that an individual student has made. And so we're excited to be able to deliver this for our goal is to have this operational in January for start of classes. So we're excited about being able to add that capability. Any more? Okay, if we don't have more questions, then Michelle, do you want to move on to the data pieces?
Yes. Sorry, I was jumping the gun before, but we have been working on providing information. I was just chatting about this a little bit. Basically, so that network managers can have better insight about how Pressbooks Results is being used across their institution or institutions plural if they're running a shared network. So this really gives a lot of much more detailed data insights about the users and courses and books that results are being used in across the campus or campuses. And so you can see you can search by term date essentially. So your start and end dates can filter this chart, and then you can take a look at that information as well as downloading a much more detailed CSV about that information. And let me open that CSV that just downloaded. So you'd be able to see a lot more detailed sort of data about where those books have been used. So let's take a look at those chart headers. Basically, all of the items that are collected. We've got the platforms, the institution, the course name, identifiers, book name, the URL, the assignment name, and then those people that are connected to it, as well as first names and last names. Quite a lot of data. I'd love to help answer any questions, or if anyone on the Pressbooks team wants to also talk about this, happy to share.
So I'd love to put the question out. We have a nice selection of network managers here. So for those of you who envision potentially using Pressbooks results with students in the future, or having some of your instructors use Pressbooks results, what are the analytics? What is it that you want to be able to see? And is this view answering the questions that you have? What else would you be interested in seeing? What would make your life easier if we can provide the data readily to you? Any thoughts on that? All right, we will give people the opportunity to answer that question. Let's see, there's a, okay, so Lauren, thank you. It might take some time to think through the analytics would be most useful. So thank you. This is definitely something that isn't necessarily easy to answer on the spot. This is also probably something that once we've delivered an initial version and you start using it, then you can come back and say, okay, you know what would be super helpful is if it would also do this or whatever. And so sometimes having that in that context is going to be very helpful. So and thank you. If you want to reflect on that question, send any thoughts. And then as we get this work rolled out, we will have opportunities to pause and say, okay, how are we doing? And what further improvements would make your life easier? Okay, any other questions or comments on those improvements? Anything else from the Pressbooks team that you want to ask or add? Okay, and I know we've been chatting. Michelle has also been doing some interviews with students to get a sense of their experiences, and then also we've got some of our pilot instructors who've been providing input as well. So we really appreciate all the pilot partners, and that's been a really rich source for us to be able to make a pretty quick turnaround for improvements that we know are going to make a difference. All right. I think Thomas is up next. Thomas, do you want to talk to us about support?
For sure. So we've recently revamped and added our user-facing results documentation to the main user guide. So now if you are at the user guide here, you'll find at the bottom of the table of contents this part and these chapters on results. And we've added a lot more detail here kind of based on our experience from the pilot. These chapters also now include embedded videos that Steele has created showing how to use results. These can be referenced by instructors. We cover how to add gradable activities to your book. We talk about configuring a Pressbooks chapter as a assignment, and then how to add that to the LMS. We have instructions for each of the major LMSs here. I mean, each supported one here. And we talked about using the results viewer. So you'll find all of that here. And we also have put together some syllabus content or material that an instructor might choose to include in their syllabus in a course where they're using Pressbooks Results. This would be aimed at students for describing what results is and how to use it. We also have a short how-to video aimed at students. And earlier, there was a reference to the notification about enabling third-party cookies, which is built into results, but that notification links to a chapter in the guide with instructions for how to do this for various browsers. And we also have a short chapter aimed at for students, kind of covering how to kind of solve the common issues that might come up that are easily addressed here. We found that after giving these instructions or making them available during the pilot, the kind of number of reported issues went way down. So this will be also available here in the guide. And I think that covers everything on this slide. Michelle already noted that within the results viewer, we will be offering this link to a form where instructors can contact support. But yes, I think that basically covers everything. Are there any questions on support resources and results that I can answer?
I will add to something you said, Thomas. So one of our pilot instructors used a version of the troubleshooting guides that we put out there, and he told his students, it is 100% effective. If you go through these steps, you will have 100% effectiveness in getting the scores correct, and that was true. So we saw the effectiveness of putting that out there, and the improvements that we've made both to the support paths and making that thing more visible, as well as in particular that notification around the browser settings. That was far and away the #1 issue that was creating problems. And we also learned through the course of the pilot that we are not the only learning tool for whom those browser settings are an issue. And so that also was more of a sort of a routine thing. Oh yeah, it's that settings issue. And most people, once they understood that, it was no big deal to address. So we were happy to see that those improvements in particular have dramatically reduced the grading issues, as Thomas said, and now it's contributed to the stability. We're very happy with that. All right, any other questions on that? And once again, we want to acknowledge the support of all of the folks who've been with us along in this pilot process. They've helped us understand what are the things that would make a big difference in terms of improving the quality of the solution, and also the usability and the quality of support that we're providing for people that are using it. And so we're excited to be coming out of the pilot with those strong improvements in place. All right, I'm going to share my screen once more and go back to our slide deck. Okay, so if you're interested in using Pressbooks Results next term, I think we've been communicating with folks who at the beginning of, I guess last summer, said we're interested and we want to stay in the loop. We're not quite sure when, but we want to know what's going on with the solution. So Hopefully you've been getting some of those communications if this is something that you are interested in. We have an online form that we have been putting out there so that if there are, whether you've been part of the pilot and want to continue, or whether you have new instructors that are interested in getting started next term, we've asked folks to RSVP by filling out this simple form. And then as people fill that out, they get the follow-up message that has information about onboarding and training sessions and what's ahead with the user guide and so forth. So this is our process of knowing who's raising their hand, who's interested, who's maybe interested and still has a few questions. Those are all things that we're collecting and then following up with appropriately. Steele or could I get somebody to post that link? Perfect. Thank you. And just as an FYI, so we have we've planned 3 training onboarding sessions, 2 in December before the holiday break, and then another one planned for the first week in January. We are open to adding more if we see sort of an outpouring of requests or need for that, we wanted to put these out there. For folks who register, these all will be recorded as well, so hopefully they can come live and bring their questions. If they can't attend the live session, they will get a recording though, and so we have that available. And then one other thing is just that reminder, if you're interested in this, or maybe in the future, and if you have not yet configured LTI integration, as a reminder, this is something that we would encourage everybody to do. It lets everybody use Pressbooks inside the learning management system, whether or not they're using Pressbooks Results. A lot of folks like being able to have students access the book inside the LMS, and so the LTI integration does that. You can also link students directly to individual pages or activities, so it helps them get to the content more quickly inside that familiar LMS environment. And then, of course, they can use Pressbooks Results with a grade passback. Also a reminder that going forward, the LTI plugin is included with a platform subscription. And so basically everybody is entitled to it. So we want to make sure people are taking advantage of that if it will be helpful. So any questions on those things, or like if I'm interested, what would I do next? I just want to make sure we're pausing and answering any questions on that before we keep going. All right, and I guess I don't know if I can see the chat. Here we go.
No new questions in the chat, Julie.
No new questions in the chat. Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see. Oh, there are a few steps to getting LTI integration. I think we've reviewed that in the past, in our last product update, but it's here. It's in the slides if you have that. We've got very simple instructions in the Network Manager Guide. If you run into any problems, feel free to email Premium Support, and we can provide that to you. Yeah, and I'm happy to help with that. All right, next on to something else that's not Pressbooks Results. We have a community, an open source contribution coming soon that is exciting. So Christopher, I think you are the first person to talk about this.
Yes, thank you, Julie. If we go to the next slide. So this open source contribution comes from BCcampus, one of the large open source installations. I think they have 2 actually large installations out in the wild, as in not in our infrastructure. And BCcampus also has a history of contributing back to the open source Pressbooks project. One of the mandates that BCcampus has is supporting post-secondary learning and facilitating post-secondary learning outside of all of BC, which is a very large territory, including some places that are fairly remote and have difficulty in terms of internet connection. So in many of those locations, they will print Pressbooks. Now, if the Pressbooks have H5P activities in them, they just get this blank thing that says there was an activity here, which is not terribly helpful for them. So BCcampus hired a H5P contractor, an expert, to help develop a method to print the preview of the H5P activities, so they get some kind of context as to what's going on in the book. And that way they don't miss what's going on. And if you go to the next slide. So I guess I already want to explain some of this. So yes, BCcampus has funded this. We have been working with Oliver and with BCcampus and helping them understand some of the places where they need to hook in their code and doing some code review and supporting this activity. And we are approaching, I believe, something that will be released relatively soon. And I will pass it on to Oscar. So Oscar's been as one of our developers here and our release manager, and he has been working directly with Oliver on this. Oz, get away.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen here. Oh, jeez. This one. All right, so as probably all of you know that you can embed on Pressbooks books H5P activities, but when you export those activities get like replaced by a box that says that that activity was excluded because it's not available for that, but that we are working with BCcampus to provide a solution for that to print the activities that are suited for printing. So for example, I have here in this book, for example, this activity that it could be good to have that on a printed version. So I exported the PDF on my network that I have been working with Oliver, that the responsible of BCcampus integration. So if I look for this activity, you can see that it's being printed here. So it's still work in progress, but we are having like a good progress with a lot of activities and different activity types that could be embedded into these printed formats. So yeah, in general, that's the progress that we have on that. It's gonna be good. I think that's it.
Thank you, Oz. And just a reminder, we are an open source project as well. We do welcome open source contributions and input and feedback in any way that can help our product. So thank you very much.
I just wanted to highlight in the chat, there was a lot of enthusiasm about this. There was a question from someone that Cindy asked, will this work with older books, those that are already published? And the answer is yes. Once it's released, it will work, but you will need to generate a new version of the PDF because it won't automatically update old PDFs that have already been generated. A couple of people were really excited and are enthusiastic about that. And then Shauna, do you want to just add your comment out loud or would you like me to read it?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to share. It's so funny the timing of this because we've been battling this at Fanshot and we're just in the middle of publishing a book on the German language that has a ridiculous number of H5P in it. And so we were struggling with how to make it more accessible, especially in the PDF. So Jason created another app, which you can see has been shared in our app hub, and anybody can use this. And it's amazing. I'll let Jason maybe talk more about it, but basically you can add the H5P into this. It generates the alternative description for it. And so we're adding that with a very basic accordion underneath all of the H5Ps in the book so that when it gets printed to PDF, you can see that alternative text so that people with accessibility needs can still access that content as well. Because before we were just creating code that would kind of remove the H5P from the PDF so it didn't take up so much room in the print version. Because we often get complaints from students that the PDFs are too long for print and then it affects the cost. And so we've done a lot of work on PDFs. So if you've got questions, Jason's your person. He's quite adept at all of this. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I'll just add that it only works on a few of the content types right now. And it basically just gives a text breakdown of it, right? So it was mostly designed for accessibility, but it can also be used in this context as well, right? Where it'll give, it comes out in an HTML details tag because that's what we use in the studio for ultimate image descriptions and alternative descriptions for accessibility. So that will display as open by default in the PDF version, right? Just as another kind of option if the output from this isn't exactly what you're looking for. Also, it's accessible, right, on the web. So that was the main objective.
Thank you, Shauna, and thanks, Jason. There was a comment in the chat that someone said they've also been using your link checker too. And I just wanted to say, like, on behalf of all of us at Pressbooks, we love these contributions to the open source thing. It's really gratifying to see people improving the product, making things useful. And thank you for releasing it under open licenses publicly so that other people can also adapt and modify it.
Yeah, it's fun. This like fun programming, right?
That's awesome. And you know, to your point, these are different things that can work together depending on what the accessibility challenges are. And so thank you for, I echo that. Thank you for that awesome work. And we will, as we're looking at the ways that we want to surface things for our community, we will certainly surface those things too, so that other folks are aware and can take advantage. All right, last couple of things. So webinars and events. We have a recently recorded webinar that we did earlier this week around jumpstarting your OER publishing program. We had a panel of folks facilitated by Steele who are earlier in their journey with our OER publishing program and with Pressbooks to talk about some of the things they'd learned and they'd done to hit momentum early. And so that was a great conversation. And then we have a couple of our open to anybody using Pressbooks training webinars. So there's a getting started one later this month. And then in early January, we've got an advanced Pressbooks publishing one coming up. That second one is the advanced Pressbooks publishing is where we talk about interactivity and H5P, that type of thing. So if you want people, if people are asking, how do I do that? That particular webinar is a great one for people who want to know about those things. So any questions on events or any more questions or discussion on the open source H5P stuff? All right, we are at the end of our formal agenda of topics, and I think we've got a few minutes to do a little bit of roundtable time, and we sort of got it kicked off there with the roundtable sharing from Shauna and Jason. So thank you for sharing those things that you've been busy with. Do other people have questions, comments, challenges, milestones, things that cool projects that you want to share? And since this is the final Pressbooks product update of the year, anything, just thinking about over the course of the year, like what are you particularly proud of that that you were able to work on or see your community work on over the course of this year?
I can kick it off. The person who would have shared this normally isn't able to be here today, but I know a lot of people publish undergraduate research journals, and usually it's a staff of undergraduates who will put together like an issue once or twice a year that showcases undergraduate research and writing. And just recently, a couple of people have shared with us some really cool things that they've done in Pressbooks to publish the undergraduate research journals. So at UEN, they've been publishing their undergraduate research journals a couple times a year in Pressbooks. And they've also hosted a couple of conferences on this and published the results of the conferences in Pressbooks. So I'm putting the links here in the chat that may be useful to some other folks that are doing something similar. And then I also did a quick search of undergraduate research in the directory and saw there's quite a lot of really interesting examples, not just at Utah, that are doing some interesting stuff presenting undergraduate research. So it's kind of a hybrid of both open pedagogy, but really showcasing undergraduate academic contributions and then making them open and public, which probably helps them for their job search and other kinds of things, or graduate school applications to be able to point to the publication online that anyone could read.
Thank you, Steele.
I'll just share a small thing that I'm super happy we've made some progress here. We've connected with our, we have a pretty robust student volunteer platform, if you will. We have a lot of students who are here on a special scholarship that requires them to do so many community service hours per semester. Anyways, we've connected with them, and so we've started matching student talents and interests and ideally career goals with some OER needs that we have at the college. So an example is we had a vet tech professor who was wanting to create an open lab manual, and she was struggling with photos because there's not a lot of images that are out there openly licensed for use. And so we connected her with a student. He completed his volunteer hours. He took, I think, something like 4,000 images for her, and they're working through them, and those will be included in the OER that she'll be publishing. So I just feel like there's so many needs that could be met if we just kind of put it together like a puzzle. That student needed volunteer hours, that student needed some photography examples for his CV or his resume, and the professor needed these images taken. And so it worked out really well.
Jamie, do you have any like a case study or any kind of description of that written up or any plans to do that? Because I bet people will be really interested to read that story and say, oh yeah, it sparked some ideas for me.
Yeah, we don't have anything formal on it yet because it was just shared at our last OER committee meeting, but I'm happy to kind of write it up in sort of the process that we went through to make those connections, and I'll share it out.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to circulate it through our community forum or other places too. Because
I mean, I sort of feel like, like, wasn't that an obvious solution? But nobody had tried it before here, so.
That's very cool. I want to do a head nod to Jen Martin. She's the one who does our Pressbooks community newsletter and our network manager newsletter. So Jen, you should follow up with Jamie and get a little quick write-up of that. That's a great use of Pressbooks. We'd love to highlight and open pedagogy.
Yep, already made a note about it.
Super. All right, 3 minutes. Anybody else before we're at the top of the hour and we turn into pumpkins?
I can share a project that I've been working on all year that I'm really excited about is the Science and Comics Initiative at the University of Oregon publishes undergraduate science comics paired with researchers. And we've been using Pressbooks as the repository to publish those. And it's just been a really fun project. It's actually not OER because it's all student work. And so they retain their rights to their work, but it's all free and available. And I just think it's a great program that I think they're hoping to expand to other universities. So just a little promo for that.
Hey, this is one of those things. Sometimes I see something in Pressbooks that just blows my mind a little bit. And this is one of those things, Alia. So thank you. I look forward to digging into it. Very cool. All right. Anybody else? I'm going to send the link to the science comics to my kids and tell them that they have some comic book reading they'll need to do over their break.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, I'm going to show my kid this tonight.
Your kid is in elementary school and my kids just started college, but I think they could all benefit from it. So
My kids are even listening to them too, so there we go.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Alia. We'll have that be our Christmas gift to our Pressbooks community here. That's a really fun one. So, or our holiday gift, I should say, be inclusive. All right. We will wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for supporting Pressbooks, for being part of this community and being part of the work that you do. We are excited to be closing this year with a lot of milestones, and we appreciate our community being part of that and helping us deliver value. So have a great holiday break, and we'll look forward to being back in touch in January. So take care.